because there is a word. We're not going to give it just like he gave it. And we'll sit down. So we know that we've been in a series coming out of Egypt, and some great men and women of God have been sharing the word, and we know that the word Egypt now means double straight. It's a place where we have difficulty and distress, and it's a confined and restrictive place. It's a place that's not good. It doesn't feel good. It won't let us break out and be who we were designed to be. And we experience twice the difficulty, twice the distress, and twice the lack when we are in Egypt. But the good news today is that God says it is time that we come out of Egypt. Hallelujah.
Yes, Lord.
He said we've been in double straits long enough, so we get to come out of Egypt. So we're so excited about that. And over the past few weeks, we've heard from some awesome men and women of God, and they've been sharing the word, and they've already told us that God was coming in to form a relationship with us, and He was giving us His name. He was giving us the name Jehovah, and He let us know that meant that He was the self-existing one. He was the one that causes things to exist, but at the same time can cause things to not exist. And He gave us that name, and then He also told us that He would be with our mouths. So when we began to speak whatever He was telling us to speak, His very essence, His very power would be with those words when we release those words out of our mouths, so that we would be bold enough to say whatever it is that He was telling us to say when we were in this place, when we were getting ready to be delivered out of this place. And He also came on to tell us, I know I'm making it hard, but I got a master plan. Just stay with me, because I'm bringing you out into greater. You have to know that it's going to get hard. And He told us that the pressure is coming, and we're going to be under pressure, but that's okay, because that's a part of us getting to the promise, because that pressure is then making our character better. It's getting those impurities out, and it's getting us ready to be able to handle the promise that's coming. And if we don't stay under the pressure, then we're going to lose out when we get to the promise. So we can't get all antsy and want to get out from under the pressure. Even though He's making it hard, stay with the master plan. All right? When He came in and He told us, I know it looks like the enemy has the power to do a few things, but he can't duplicate this. And He dared the enemy to duplicate that. And he started to do some things, and we saw some things, and it did look like the enemy had the power to come in and do what God was doing. But then all of a sudden, God stepped it up a notch. And the enemy couldn't stay with Him anymore. And then all of a sudden, we're looking, and the enemy is like, well, I can't handle that. And so we saw God in a whole new light. And He started doing things and miracles, signs, and wonders before our eyes. And then He came in last week, and He told us, look, the most important part of this is don't you leave your babies behind. Don't you go get your deliverance and then leave your babies in a land that's restricted and confined, and they can't find their ways out. You get your babies and you teach them how to worship. You get your babies and you bring them into that purpose. You get your babies and you begin to prophesy and teach them to use the word of God to bring the light and the power into your home. Get your babies, hashtag no child left behind. We heard from Him last week, and so this week God has come to us this week, and we're going to take our text this week. And the word for the day is, we ain't leaving nothing.
All right.
Okay? All right, so what I need you to do, even before we get into the text, I need you to scoot up on the edge of your seat. Go and pop your neck a little bit. Muster up as much gangsterness as you can get in you right now. Yeah, be ready, because I need you to get some attitude with this thing. I need you to get that ugly. You just walked up on me, you talking to me like that? I need you to get some of that in you right now, okay? And we're going to say that again. We ain't leaving nothing. We ain't leaving nothing. That's what I'm talking about. Now, so for our text today, we're going to go to Exodus 10, 24, 25, and 26. So if you'll turn with us there today, and I'll be reading from the King James Version. I'll give you time to get that one. Some of our phones out a little slow. I don't know about care about it. Back on the phone, iPods, tablets, and stuff. So the word says, Exodus 10, 24 through 26 says, Then Pharaoh called to Moses and said, Go serve the Lord. Only let your flocks and your herds be kept back. Let your little ones also go with you. But Moses said, you must also give us sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our livestock also shall go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind. For we must take some of them to serve the Lord our God. And even we don't know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there. Hallelujah. So we're just going to look into that word and see what God is sharing in his word today. And I want you, all throughout this, I just want you to remember that we ain't leaving. Right? So, I know we've had the privilege and we've been looking through Exodus and we've been watching a drama-filled saga this unfold before our eyes. We've been watching two powers go at it. We have the all-powerful God and we've got the most powerful man in the world at the time. So we've got two powers going at it and they're going back and forth. And we've got the all-powerful God again, and then we've got this oppressive Pharaoh that will not move upon the word of the Lord. And so God has come in and said, let my people go. Well, Pharaoh is like, no, these my people, they ain't going nowhere. So God is like, okay, you want to challenge me? Here we go. So the challenge starts. And so God says, Pharaoh is like, I can match that again. So it's going back and forth. They're going back and forth. And you would think, after all the plagues that they had gone through, because by the time we get to our text, we're on plague number 9. You would think, maybe by plague number 5. You know what I'm saying? At least by plague number 6. Something would have hit him and said, no, you know what, God, hear your people. Go ahead on, here go your people. This ain't worth it. Y'all go ahead on and do whatever God is telling y'all to do, because I can't handle this. You would think by this point. But for some reason, he still ain't got it. Okay? He still does not have it. And he will not bow to what God is saying. And if you like me, you sit there saying, what is wrong with you? Let go already. Do what God is saying already. Would you just let go? But don't we do the same thing? Don't we do the same thing? When God comes in and asks us for something, don't we do the same? We have these battles in our will. No, God, this is what I'm going to do. God says, let that go. I'm not letting that go. Because he should have known, and when he did, shouldn't have. I ain't letting nothing. He going to come apologize to me. Is that not us? Oh no, my supervisor ain't going to talk to me like that. She going to talk to me right. You don't come here and talk to me right. I ain't doing none of that. Is that not us? Is that not how we do? And then God comes in and says, okay, I don't want you to overdraft your bank account. Pay your tithes. And I'm bless you.
Yes, ma'am.
I know I got quiet for a reason. Because I didn't pay the tithes, bank account is whoa, and now I'm in this distress, in this place of lack. And he get me out, I let go, I finally do what he said, and then he said, give me that. I just gave you this. Now, I ain't giving you this too. Now look, I just gave you this. I'm not giving you this too. Now you gonna have to slow down and hold on a minute. Do we not do like that? And then we look around and wonder why we're in double the distress, double the lack, why we're having double the difficulty. If we're not willing to do what God is saying, then what are we looking for? What are we looking for? So I just want, that's not even really a point, but hey, don't be your own Pharaoh. Get out your own way. Don't be your own Pharaoh. Get out of your own way. Because it will move along a lot faster. Whatever God is asking you for, this deliverance process is going to go a lot faster if you will get out of your own way. And stop being your own Pharaoh. It's not your will. It's not your power. It's not up to you. It's God's will. It's God's power. It's God's plan. So get out your own way and stop being your own Pharaoh. So The first point out of the text that I want to take us to is we don't make deals with the devil. It's either all or nothing. Or within this deliverance. We don't make deals with the enemy, with the oppressor. We don't make deals. Okay? So it's not deal or no deal. It's no deal. Okay? So when you look at verse 24, we see Pharaoh telling Moses, okay, fine. It's been dark. I called you in. You brought the light back. Look, you serve your God. Take your little children and get on up out of here. But, leave your flocks. Leave your livestock. Okay? You take, go on and serve your God. That's what you want to do. Go on, stick to you. Go on. Get these little kids, get on out of here. But leave your livestock. Now, Moses had enough sense to know that was not what God promised him. God had not spoke to him and said, leave the livestock. And because God had not spoke to Moses and said, leave the livestock, Moses had no sense to know, no, we don't leave our livestock. They're too important to us. So he then says, no, we're not leaving livestock. And then here's why we really don't make deals with the enemy. When Pharaoh tells him, get your children, you can go serve your God and all this, he asked him for their livestock. Now you have to understand how important their livestock was back then, okay? Livestock, and Pastor Jones already told us this, the livestock back then was a symbol of status. It meant how much power you had. It meant how wealthy you were. So basically Pharaoh just came to him and said, I want all your money, I want all your power, I want all your status, and I want your worship. That's what he just said to him when he asked him for the livestock. Because he said, yeah, you go serve God. You can take your children. Believe your livestock. And here's the thing. Their livestock was used as worship, as part of their worship experience. That was a part of their worship experience because they sacrificed animals to God. So they wouldn't have had anything to worship God with. They couldn't have made any sacrifices to him, couldn't have gave him anything. They wouldn't have any symbol of status or power or wealth. They would have been on the losing side. But here's the crazy part. Egypt, Pharaoh, had just lost all of their livestock in the previous chapter. So, who really has the power in this situation? And even without the livestock, Moses had God on his side. Egypt and Pharaoh have nobody on their side. So we're in the same position even when we're in Egypt, in this place of double strength. We got God on our side. We have the true and living God for us. And if he be for us, he's more than the world against us. And greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. So that means that when the enemy comes in and then tries to tell us, or a circumstance tries to tell us how things are supposed to be, we don't sit there and say, well, okay, I guess so. I guess it's going to be like this for a while. No, that is not what God promised me. Oh, no. And you stand up and you stand in your rightful place and you do just like Moses. No. We're not leaving. Nothing. We're not leaving. Nothing. So it's either all or nothing. So make a decision. Either you want to stay in Egypt by yourself, or you're giving it up and taking all. Understand? You're going to take all. And we're leaving. Because we all going in together. We all going in together. So if I got to come over there and push you in your back to get you to where you're going, or put you on a donkey or a camel so you can come on here. Hallelujah. So we ain't leaving nothing.
Yes, ma'am.
So God took in Exodus verse 9, 4 through 6, he had just come in and killed. He made the declaration. He said, I'm going to kill Egypt's livestock. I'm going to let the children, and nothing going to happen to the children of Israel livestock. And I'm going to start killing all of Egypt's livestock. So, and he did it, and it says, God did that thing on tomorrow.
Well,
Like within 24 hours.
yeah.
He turned that thing around.
Yes.
Now, you talking about the slaves, the oppressed ones, went from slaves and being the ones that were under to then being the bottles and the shot house. Within 24 hours, God had raised them up to a place where they were above only. They turned into the lenders and not the borrowers. They were on top. They had the power. They had the wealth. And they had the status to show it. Within 24 hours, God did that thing. So I don't know who that's for in this room, but you need to know that God has the power. God, this time tomorrow, to whatever is oppressing you and standing in your way, He has the power to come in and turn that thing around to the point that your oppressor is then under your feet, even while you're still in your deliverance process. So you don't have to wait till you get to the promised land. You're going to see it now. Already? Already. So, I just kind of want to show you Moses in this moment. Because up until this moment, if you look at Moses and how he was interacting with God, God would say, and then Moses would say. Or God would say, do this, and then Moses would do this. Okay? So verse 1, go back to verse 1, Exodus 10, verse 1, it will say, God said to Moses. Go to verse 3, and it says, Moses said. You go to verse 12, and it says, God said. You go to verse 13, and it says Moses did. You go to verse 21, it says God said, stretch out your hand. Verse 22, you'll see when Moses stretched out his hand. Now, if you're from verse 1 to verse 24, you'll see that they were forming a relationship. God was teaching him how to speak. God was teaching him how to walk this thing out. God was teaching him how to speak, how to obey. And Moses was learning, okay, all right, God said, I say. And then when God says, I say it. And then when God says, do it, I do it. And then all of a sudden, what he said is happening. Whoa. And whatever he's telling me to do, it's making stuff happen. Whoa. So if I just simply speak and obey, that's all I really got to do, because he's going to do the rest of whatever it is. Moses never did anything outside of say what God said and do what God said do. That's all Moses did. He didn't call any other place to come up. All he did was use what God had in his hand. God said, use what's in your hand. That's what Moses did. So I'm going to challenge you today. Use what's in your mouth and in your hands to do what God is telling you to do. You don't have to do anything outside of say the word, obey God, and watch God do whatever it is that He's going to do. Okay? So, I want you to look. We're going to go to the scripture now, because I just walked you through verse 1 through 24. Now, go to verse 25. And I want you to notice on verse 25, what does it say? But Moses said, right? Do you see anywhere before that it said God said anything? Do you see where God did anything? Do you see where He told him to do anything? You see where He told him anything? Do you see anything? You see where God said anything? No. You know what happened? Verse 1 through 24, you know what happened? Moses' confidence got so built. His relationship with God was so strong. He knew who God was in this earth. And he knew who God, he knew who He was. He knew who He operated like. He knew how He operated. And he was like, oh, okay, I know at this point. See, this is what God already told me. So I ain't got to go back to God and ask Him again, because that word that took root is in my heart. I know what His situation ain't running me, and the circumstances ain't running me. I'm going to tell you what's running me, and that's God and his word. So Moses just responded out of the word that was in his heart and the relationship that he had with God. So it was no longer, he just stepped right into his God-given authority to speak, to rule, and to reign. But he did go through the process. Don't miss that. From verse 1 through 24, he was with God. He was in the word with him. He was talking to him. He was listening to him. He was obeying what he was telling him. And he was seeing all these miracles, these signs, and these wonders go forth. And so when verse 25 comes up and Pharaoh says something outside of what God had said, Moses is like, that's not what God promised me. And since that's not what he promised me, let me tell you something. Let me tell you how it's going to go. I'm going to let you know how it's going to work. Since you want to tell me, no, you're not the one with the power, the wealth, the status, or the worship to my God. So I'm going to tell you how this plays out. You're going to give us some livestock. Because we ain't leaving nothing. But you going to give us something. For putting us through all this hell, you going to give us something. You owe us. We ain't leaving our stuff. You owe us. And we're not leaving here without it. Because if you'll notice, in verse 26, he says, our livestock also shall go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind. Do you know what a hoof is? Any pig feet eaters up in here? Oh, okay. I know I got some country people up in here. Okay, the hoof is that little, like the toenail on the cow, the little front part of the toe. Just, we ain't leaving nothing. Not even a toenail off of one of our animals will be left behind. We're not leaving nothing. And on top of what we're not leaving, you owe us. And you know what you're going to give us? We know you don't believe in our God. That's okay. But guess what we're going to do with the animals you give us? We're going to worship our God. Now what? The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. We're going to take the wealth of the wicked and we're going to bless the kingdom with it. Now what? Now what you going to do? And you can't stop us. You cannot stop us. Now what? So Moses understood his relationship. He understood what God was saying. He understood how to speak. He understood, most importantly, how to obey. And he knew how to worship. It brought him into a place where he walked right into his God-given authority. And Moses started taking over. Because I want you to remember, when we first started this, remember how Moses was? Lord, I can't do this because I can't even talk to him. I don't even know. And I got a stammering problem. I can't go before no God and talking about let his people go. I can't, you take error, but you can't send me. That's how he started off. But by the time we get chapter 10, Moses like, oh, I got this thing. No. He didn't shut up. Not one time. He didn't need Aaron to come in and interpret it. Moses spoke boldly. So he started off a little shaking, a little insecure. But it was that time that he spent with God. And his word. And being obedient. And that obedience is a form of worship. Those were the key things that brought him into his place of boldness. Where he stepped out on that authority. Already? Already. So we are not going to respond to situations or circumstances based on an emotion. We're not going to respond based on what this situation or the circumstance is telling us. This oppressor does not get to tell us what it's going to be like. We, if we haven't already, are going to start spending time with God so we can start exercising our faith. so that we can know that God is with our mouths, so that we will know the power of God that is within us, because His Spirit is alive in us. He left us here in charge. He made a promise to us. We are a part of the promised people. Hallelujah. So the last thing I want to talk about is in verse 26. In verse 26, very last part, he says, "For we must take some of them to serve the Lord our God. And even we don't know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there." Okay? So Moses said, "We're going to take your stuff. We're taking all our stuff because we ain't leaving none behind. And we're going to take all of the stuff that you give us, and it's going to become a part of our worship." Because really, we honestly don't know what God is going to require of us when we get to this new place. We really don't know what our requirements are at this point. We don't know what God is going to ask us for. So we need everything we can get. That's why we can't leave nothing behind. Okay? And so he says, we must serve the Lord until we arrive there. Now I just want you to know that just because he said until we arrive there, that means his faith had already made it to the promised land. Moses was like, there's no question whether we're going to make it or not. We are going to make it to the promised land. There's not a question about if. It's just when we're going to. And so his faith was already there. He had already made it to the promised land. And he's like, I don't know what we're going to have to do when we get over there. But I know we made it.
Right.
So I can tell us today, we're going to make it. Don't know what's over there. Don't know what everything God's going to require of us when we get there. But we're going to make it. Hallelujah. So, but that was good. And I'm thankful that Moses' faith was there. But the word that I want to deal with is there. When we arrive there. Where is there? There is the promised land. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Pastor Jones has already told us that there's always a place attached to a promise. Right? So, we know that the promised land is a place that's attached to this promise of deliverance. We're coming into the promised land. And so, I want you to look at what God said the promised land is going to look like when we get there. This is what the land is going to look like. Turn with me to Exodus 3, verses 8 and 9. It says, okay, what time to get there? Because I need you to see it. We there? Alright. So the word says, "So I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up from that land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites." Sounds like a lot of ites, right?
Yeah.
It kind of overwhelms the part where he said he was going to take you to the good land, right? Almost make you not want to go, right? Almost. But we already know we win, so we're going. Hallelujah. We already know every enemy is defeated. So we're going. So I just want us to kind of concentrate on the land. What kind of land he's bringing us into. Okay? He said that it was going to be a large land, a good land, and a flowing land. Alright? And he said what it would be flowing with, right? He said it was going to be flowing with milk and honey, right? I was thinking myself, it probably would have excited us a little more if he said diamonds and gold and pearls. And, you know, probably got a little more excited when he said milk and honey. It's like, oh, okay. Milk and honey, you got some honey comb to go with that milk, some Rice Krispies or something to go with that milk, a cup of coffee or something to go with that honey outside, and what, some tea or something, what? Milk and honey. So, everything else was good. You got the large land, it's a good land, and it's flowing, and it's like, yes, but it's flowing with milk and honey. Well, We're going still, Lord, but I want you to look at how significant milk and honey was now.
Nice.
Okay? Milk was actually more of a cream. And back then, it meant that it was the richest portion of a substance. And it actually equated with your abundance.
Wow.
That's what milk represented. Milk represented your abundance. And this actually was a luxury item. Everybody didn't have milk. Because you remember you have to have the flock. You gotta have livestock.
Yes, ma'am.
And remember, your livestock indicates how wealthy you are. It indicates your status and your power. So if you low down here, you ain't got no livestock. You ain't got no milk. You don't have cream. You don't have a sign of abundance in your life. Okay? So this also was something that showed how rich you were. If you had milk, you were rich. I mean, like you some Donald Trump, like Warren Buffett style rich, okay? You balling and shot calling on another level rich to have milk. Right? Keep that. We're going to look at honey. Honey meant, and it was what they used it for, it was a purified product of a natural substance. A purified product of a natural substance. This substance was actually something that had to be brought in. They didn't have honey in Egypt. They had to bring this in out of the mountainous areas where the Hittites are. That's where the honey actually came from. So they had to send for it. You know, if you're poor, you're not sending for nothing, right?
No.
You ain't got no money, you ain't sending for nothing.
Yeah.
So you really had to be rich.
Yeah.
I mean, like Pharaoh rich in those times in order to have honey. Okay? So when you had both of these items, and you had milk and honey, oh my God, you just hit the top of this. If you had milk and honey, do you know how rich you'd have to be to have milk and honey back then? Milk and honey. The only one who did have it was Pharaoh.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's because he was taking all the money from everybody else. So, I mean, to have a land now, don't even think about it, with milk and honey. He didn't just give us milk. Thank you, my sister. Thank you. He didn't say just milk or honey. He didn't say it was going to be flowing milk. He didn't say it was going to be flowing honey. He said milk and honey. And we don't get excited because he said flowing. That means continually, perpetually, it don't stop. It just keeps coming and it just keeps coming. You ain't had to sit out for it. You ain't got to wait on it. You're in a land that's large, that's good, that's great, that's flowing. The richest part of, and it shows that you are in an abundant place. It's kind of like having, I mean, when you put it together back then, it was kind of like having icing on your cake. That's really what it was like. It was like you put your icing on your cake. So God is saying, here's the icing on the cake. I'm not just going to take you out of this process. You're not just being delivered, but you are being delivered from the hands of your oppressor, whatever it is today. And you are getting ready to go into a place, a large land, a good land, a great land that's flowing with the riches. Oh my God. So, you know, in the beginning I said that Egypt represented a confined and a restrictive, double straight. You know, it's narrow. You don't have room. So you going from, I ain't got enough, I ain't got enough room, to a place that's broad, that's wide, that's pleasant, that's rich, that's excellent, that's better, that's happy, that's good, and it's prosperous, and it's flowing, and it's gushing with the richest portion of the abundance that has been purified from every natural substance to a place where your enemies cannot stand. So you're going from this place of restriction and confinement to a place where there are no limits. To a place where there are no bounds. Where there is nothing but increase all around. Every place that you look from the north, south, the east, and the west, it's yours and it's flowing. And what you have to remember is you cannot compromise. You cannot compromise. You don't make deals with the enemy. We won't be our own Pharaoh and stay in our own way anymore. We're getting out of our way today. We won't be our own Pharaoh. We won't make any deals. We're not compromising. And most importantly, we ain't leaving.